Clare Harris, and I'm the director of the Scottish Contemporary Art Network, a member network for those who work in the contemporary visual arts. Just like the publishing sector and many others, we are being pretty hard hit by the impacts of COVID-19, and the future for a lot of people in the sector is pretty uncertain. With that in mind, it's been great to do something positive and talk about one of my personal loves, magazines. My favourite magazine, I don't think you could choose. There are so many out there for so many different moments and times and places. So I wanted to focus on Spare Rib. Now there's a reason for doing this. It's a massively influential magazine for the feminist movement. It was first published in 1972 and came out of the women's lib movement that had kind of bubbled up in 1970 or thereabouts. I came across these copies. I have 3 old copies from the early 80s in a place called the Glasgow Women's Library, which is in the east end of Glasgow. It's a charity. It's a member of SCAN, it's a museum, and it's a brilliant place with all sorts of women's history on its shelves. I picked these up. They were selling them off, I think, to raise funds. I think they were extra archival copies. And I took them home. Actually, I took them back to the office and I showed the gang in the publishing team at the time, and we talked about the design. We talked about the kind of rough and ready, direct, cut and paste kind of feel. But we also talked about the content. It's really important. It's a magazine that galvanised a lot of women who at the time felt they didn't really have a voice. It was published right through the 70s up until the early 90s and changed over the time. It was controversial at times. It brought together many strands and many debates around feminism and intersectionality. But it was kind of iconic, and I think it still is today. I think Spare Rib really is an indication of how a magazine can be almost a lightning rod for a community, a galvaniser, a source of precious information for those in places who are not connected to any kind of live or physical community of like-minded people. My mother actually read this when she was in small town Scotland in the northeast, and she ended up moving to London and kind of becoming much more involved in the feminist movement, having a bit of an awakening. I don't know if Spare Rib was what sparked that, but I certainly know that was in her consciousness and in her thinking. I would have been about 6 when these guys came out, so she may well have read these. So there's a personal link, there's a professional link. From a design and an aesthetic point of view, I just think it looks pretty cool. It's pretty old school, but then that's the nature of it. So if you get a chance to see a copy, head down to Glasgow Women's Library when we're allowed to, and delve into the history of a really important movement of our time. Thank you.